Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 22. And sorry I missed last week. Um just kind of missed it. But here we are. Today's Monday, May 22nd. So it's about a week and a half post May update. So still people are doing a lot of testing, maybe a couple Lotus runs here and there, Arc, Covert, everything. Um a lot of testing, a lot of fun. Some classes are doing insane damage. Um Just in our server, for example, Guild Honor Battle, our top DPS, our biggest whale was an Ice Lightning Mage, and now he's actually um, probably one of the top players in Guild Honor Battle and Covert in the entire server. And that's just nice to see kind of how spending gear translates to DPS output. And kind of seeing that across the board, not just for Ice Lightning Mages, but just for a lot of classes. It feels like with these last few rebalances, updates, the game is starting to come into, become what people were hoping when they see what Korean Maple Story Mobile is like. And people were kind of wanting that same balance. It feels like they're trending in that direction. I'll talk about kind of the things that I've seen recently. But in this podcast, I really want to talk about how I ranked this update compared to the other four. So ranking the top, the five updates so far in 2023 and ranking them accordingly. In my opinion, what I think was the most impactful, best, whatever it is. But before we get into that, kind of my initial takeaways about a week and a half in, like I mentioned, post rebalance, it feels like one DPS is as confusing to me as ever. I'm not gonna lie. Like I thought with the ADI changes, right? It'd be more consistent, it'd be more predictable to understand where damage is coming from, right? I think there was so much RNG to ADI previously that now that it's kind of just straight 12 lines or whatever it is every 1.5 seconds at that just feels like it's predictable, right? You know how many lines you're doing um every minute, every second, every attack, whatever it is, and it feels like we probably should have had a pretty good idea of how much damage we're doing, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm still not there. And I'm kind of just waiting for that DPS tracker to show up so I can kind of actually see the numbers, how much, what skills are doing what damage. Um, but until then, I'm really lost. Like Arc, for example, my highest PR was with less, but like full buffs, I did like 119 in Arc. Then with 50s and no tangs, I did like 133. Right, the times were the same teams, everything like that, and it just felt so unexpected. Right, I didn't even expect that. I didn't even expect that big of a jump. My previous PRs, before pre-patch, with the ADI changes, with the ignore enemy defense changes, I just wasn't expecting that. But it feels like that's just the new norm. The game is like people are hitting insane numbers. Gear is translating. Classes are just everyone's getting stronger. Ignore enemy defense teams are going to start, pushing towards Damien with V3 coming out, probably clearing either before or definitely after. Um, and we're having fun with that as well. I'm just posting a ton of Damien content. That's kind of the big thing for us right now. We just had a run right before this podcast that went really, really well. I can't wait to share that with you guys. But DPS for me, I'm still kind of lost. I kind of lost the motivation or like interest in trying to figure out where the damage is coming from just because I just don't know. And it just feels like waiting for that DPS tracker to really see what's going on. But DPS across the board, like I mentioned, seems balanced. We have some Buccaneers that are doing really well. Even Pathfinders, Demon Avengers. I know a Demon Avenger did almost 60 bill DPM and Lotus. Pathfinder was doing about 55, low 50s. You know, Buccaneers went up like 50%, 150% increase in damage. Their skill set, their gameplay got completely changed. They are doing a little bit more burst. Kaisers are in a good place right now. Even battle mages were doing okay. So it's nice to see kind of these classes that were forgotten, even classes like Pathfinders and Demon Avengers that didn't even get actual class specific buffs. Like I talked about, everyone wanted those classes to get buffs, are doing pretty well. They got a huge buff from the ignore enemy defense changes. The ADI change I think benefited them more than other classes. So it's nice to see kind of the top classes sort of come down a tad and the bottom classes really benefit and kind of close that gap like we've all wanted. Kind of another takeaway, kind of as quickly as feels like Phantoms, Synchro, not necessary. not needed feels insane. Like I just think about like how Phantoms now are not taking Synchro. Um, and how about other, they're using Bleed Dart or whatever it is. And it's just insane to me. Like the fact how good their toolkit is, how, the fact that they can have that option and, every other class besides the Paladin would just die for Synchro, right? And Phantoms are just like, we don't need it. We'll just take another skill and be just fine because we have all these other tools in our toolkit to survive and do DPS. So kind of funny to think, but Phantoms are in a really interesting place. Gameplay has completely changed for them. A lot more testing, it seems, to min max. That seems fun to me. I would love that kind of revamp with the rebalance, just completely changing things up, min maxing, kind of testing things out to see what works in certain content, being able to choose certain skills based on what you're doing situationally. And obviously, the more skilled you are, like I mentioned, like if you're not taking Synchro, that must means you're really a good player. That understands a player class so that you don't need it, so that you can use another skill that's going to help you do more damage. So nice to see. Just insane to think that people are just Phantoms are just disregarding Synchro altogether. And then, like I talked about previously in the previous podcast, feels like they're moving away from support classes. Bishop's got a big buff. I see, bishops are in, I think I saw in Pandemonium, one of the top guilds in the game. Bishop finished third in boss damage, right? In their Lotus run. Pretty insane to see. Um, I'm sure in Culver they're doing really well. Just the AR change, the Angel Ray change is 10% faster. And on top of the Ignore Enemy defense buff that they got, Bishops are actually, useful not just for their support skills, Res and Benediction and Shell, but just for their overall DPS, right? It seems like they're kind of transitioning away from that. Same as Phantoms. Pallies are already considered not even support classes. So good to see even Buccaneers are getting more, not just TL mules anymore. They're actually here for damage and they can keep up. So the Buccaneer that I talked to in our server, Mirror Jane, he went from 9th to 2nd in boss damage in one of the Lotus runs. Pretty insane jump. Exciting to see, right? And then the last thing I want to talk about, kind of, um, now that we've been doing Damien more, practicing, seeing it more often, it feels like Damien, like I think people have this thought in their head that Damien is, comparing to Lotus, right? But it's more Magnus, right? For sure. You can go in solo, see the rotation. Damien has a set rotation every single time. So you can go and practice solo. Obviously, team settings is much different, but for the most part, at least you can go in and practice and kind of get used to it and not get overwhelmed. And, you can, knowing the rotation just makes it easier, one less thing to think about, right? Then you can do your DPS, then you can kind of move and dodge the skills preemptively instead of trying to react. That's what I love. Like I love Hard Magnus back in the day. Still love doing it. Kind of shows kind of the skill cap between players that really put the effort into knowing skill rotations. It really shows in DPS and survivability versus the people that kind of just show up and learn on the fly that weren't really prepared. They kind of just take a little bit longer to adjust and adapt, and not perform as well. So it's good to see, um, you know, just where people are at. It's kind of a little competitive thing, right? The more prepared you are, the better you're going to do, right? But Damien is fun, doing a lot of content. Kind of today's run was with a lot of new people from different guilds, trying to get them some experience so that they can go off and kind of lead their own guilds as well. Well, also we have kind of our main guild Lotus team that's going to run on Thursday right after our Lotus run. So it's kind of a nice balance. It's not very overwhelming, but it's still like every run is just so um, impactful. So every run is so beneficial. Just learning from each run, recording it, kind of looking back, and kind of finding ways to improve and kind of bring that back to their teams and their guilds, so that everyone can kind of slowly progress and hit the ground running when Damien comes around in V3 and people can get those coins and get those absol whatever it is. So exciting times. I can't wait to share those content with you. But let's get into the top 5 rankings of the past 5 updates. And we're just a little quick reminder of what they were. So let's see. Let's see what we got. So January was Seal, right? Seal off the bat. Let's see. So new classes. There's 2 new classes, right? There's 2 new classes that came out. 2 updates that mainly were 2 new classes, and then 2 rebalances, and then 1 completely new gearing system, right? So January was Seal. Pretty awesome, right? Brand new MapleStory mobile class. February was a rebalance, So that was the huge crit res rebalance, right? Um, and that was it felt like, it wasn't that big of a thing, right? Because the whole thing was, I remember it was just 20 classes, right? Just 20 classes getting their rebalance. So like paladins didn't get it, a lot of classes didn't get anything, and then kind of in the underlying behind the scenes was the crit res changes, the crit rate changes, where it was completely just kind of one line and like totally changed the meta. I remember talking about it in the podcast that it was the biggest update ever, in my opinion. Kind of just changed the game. Um, and sorry, that was the March update. So the March update was the rebalance, um, you know, with the new meta. And then let's see, February was, yeah. So then, February was the new gearing system. So that was Absolab. Pretty insane, right? So we followed up Sia 23 went off, started off with a bang, right? New class, awesome, completely brand new, never seen before class. Then Absolab, Chaos tiers, right? The whole new gearing system we haven't had in what, I don't even know how long, years, right? Since last one was Necro. So that was February update. Huge kind of insane, just change the game. Cap is just hitting 30 mil, like 30 mil whales are going crazy. Like people are using their this was also when Absolab coins came out, so we could start selling Absolab crystals, things like that. So that was a pretty insane time, when the meta changed where top and bottom wasn't as impactful. Fafnir even. So that was an interesting time. March, so like I talked about, was the rebalance, right? 20 classes plus the crit res meta. And then April was Arc, brand new class, rebalance. Probably one of the arguably the strongest pirate class in the game. Very flashy and good to see. And a lot of people are actually rerolled to this class, so it's pretty popular. And then um, they had some quality of life changes as well in this April update. And then obviously May, second rebalance was, you know, ADI changes, ignore enemy defense, added to V skills. Not all the classes obviously got rebalanced again, but it feels like it's all these changes combined. And this update kind of brought the meta, balanced the game out a little bit more. And so just thinking about that 5 for 5 updates, I can't think of one of them that is a thumbs down, right? I mean, you can maybe say like a new class that's not that popular, but even like Sia, obviously, like even if you don't play it, um, just what came with it, just the fact that it was a brand new class. A lot of people were just trying it, making alts, and I'm making it alt. It's fun. It's awesome. It looks cool. Very unique, and I'm excited to play it and test it out and get it to fit job and kind of see what the playstyle is like. There's just a lot to learn with that class. So that's definitely top tier update. Then Arc, you could say that's probably the worst update, but still Arc is a fun class, right? So I'm thinking about this ranking, right? Number 5 has to be um, uh, Arc, right? Just thinking about it, 2 rebalances, new gearing system, Sia, yeah, Arc is definitely going to be number 5. Not even not even like, it's not even a bad thing. It's just the other 4 updates were so insane and so impactful that it's just someone had to be number 5. And Arc just felt like, the quality of life changes are always nice. I don't ever complain about them just because quality of life, right? Just things that you don't notice, just positive things to make your life easier, faster, right? Maybe make dailies a little smoother, one less button to press. Those things add up. Those things feel nice that you don't really notice until, you know, they happen. But Arc, um, like I said, they're their numbers are pretty solid, right? Their combo class, very fun to play, flashy. They're very interesting, but it seems like they can have high potential. They may not have like the best survivability, but it feels like their burst is top tier. Um, and they're even like guild honor battle, their multi scores are really high. It feels like they are, I would say they're, if I were to rank them kind of tier system right now, I'd probably put them in A tier. Maybe they're higher than I think. They just don't have the exposure, right? I haven't seen too many numbers. I know their guild dungeon scores are insane. Their peaks are very high, but obviously play style is a huge part in it. Combo min maxing, and then thinking about how they handle bosses and things like that. Arc, I'm sure they do very well. Lotus might be a little difficult with the lasers, and then Damien, I can just imagine they're probably middle pack. But just because of how hard it is to keep up your combos with the actual gameplay. But I mean, no shame in being fifth. That update was pretty solid if you include the quality of life changes as well. But then number four, like it's insane to me just thinking about this back. Like Sia is an iconic you know update for the Nexon, for the game in general, right? Just having being able to have a new class specific to that we've never seen it before, specific to mobile, and actually have that come out is just that's legendary, right? That's iconic, right? Especially how long PC's been out, how many classes are out there. They went this route with Sia, and in my opinion, they kind of nailed it. Like the class is so unique, right? The class is so has so many different paths that you can take. Um, it just feels like, yeah, it's probably very challenging with mobile for some people, but I think it was just a lot of it was kind of the perfect timing to draw some people back or make ults, and I just the gameplay and the fact that this is number four of this year's updates is just shows you how amazing the other three updates are. Like, right, like just think about this, like a brand new class like this that hits is still number four. It just shows you like no matter what, um, no matter how great the new classes are, like even if it's a dual blade, even if it's like a Sia, an Arc, when Adele comes out, that still like doesn't impact everybody, right? It only impacts those people that are going to reroll or make ults that are into like Legion and stuff like that. But it's not the entire community. Um, a lot of people don't reroll; they just make ults, right? So new classes are probably very challenging and a great accomplishment for the devs and for Nexon. But for the community, it just feels like it just is never going to compare to these next three updates, right? So that's two rebalances and a new gearing system, right? So how would I order these three? Um, so recap, right? These are not just regular rebalances. These are probably arguably the two biggest rebalances that have balanced the game, right? These are crit res changes. This eliminated, or the crit rate change eliminated crit res, which was the biggest, talking point imbalance in the game for a long, long time, right? Paladins, Shades, Bishops had it for a little bit. Heroes had it. We're just being chosen because of this one skill. We're having higher scores in Covert and in Mulong and in everything, like because of this one skill. So the fact that rebalance, um, that March rebalance came and had that big of an impact. I talked about it back then. It was the biggest patch ever, and I still, you know, that's debatable, but I still feel like it is, right. And then number two is the other rebalance is changing ADI, right, bringing kind of the peak burst down from classes that had so many lines and kind of balancing it out, right. Same lines across the board, no matter how big your burst skills are. Um, and then also the ignore enemy defense. Don't sleep on that. That has skyrocketed. It's just free damage, right? It forces people to level up their V skills, right? To see that benefit. All the scores across the board for the top end game bosses are going up. Percentage base, it just feels like it's it's another way for them also to balance the game. If they feel like one V skill is too overpowered, they just knock down the ignore enemy defense for a skill or something like that, right? It's just another avenue for them to take to balance out classes easier. And then like it's just so hard to put these two as not just the top two, right? And the third one just has to be a new gearing system, Absolab, Chaos, just something that they haven't had in years, right? We have rebalances all the time, new classes all the time. A new gearing system completely changed the game just for years to come, right? It's gonna like people are gonna be trying to get Absolabs 2-3 years down the line, whether they're taking inherit route or they're going into chaos into Absolab or just straight necro into Absolab. Feels like that is just it's kind of groundbreaking. And I think this was a big. I remember at the time this patch was scary, right? This was a make or break it for a lot of people. They were wondering how it was going to be implemented, the rates, the chance of success, because Korean Maple Story doesn't have this, right? We had nothing to go off of. Our necro route is so completely different than anything out there. So the fact that um, you know we were very worried at the time, and I think nailed it again, right? I remember feedback section blowing up, being so upset that chaos route from inherent, which was a much cheaper route than Necro, which was a smaller percentage of players, was getting an easier route to Absolab. And that was before they actually saw the numbers, right? And once they saw the numbers, everyone kind of quieted down. There was no um, complaining anymore because the chaos route is hard. It's challenging. There's so much less RNG. Chaos fodders are expensive and hard to use. So, and then just going from Necro to Absolab, just people started to, invest in their gear, right? Get to level 50 armors, right? Start to Radiant Exalt. And then as they started to implement 20 to 30% success chance for Radiant Exalts and then up to the Exalt reduction, it just felt like, I know that wasn't in the March update, I don't think. Maybe, I think it was a little bit. But it just felt like they nailed it, right? And this system is gonna something that's gonna be, affect the game for such a long time, be a huge part of the game. People were selling Absolab crystals, right? Free to play, able to invest, use that mesos to invest in other things, right? They don't have to, it's another source of income for mesos, and like people are creating alts to do Lotus for the coins. Like that's what I did with my bishop. It just feels like it's another source of income for certain amount of players, and kind of the economy changes right with it. So it's very interesting how this one was such a huge update, like, and such a huge success, a new gearing system, and I still can't put it above rebalances, right? Like rebalances, if you just think about it, that's all anyone cares about. You have to get that right, right? Feedback, 99% is about rebalances, right? Classes want buffs, classes want nerfs, they want this change, they want things to lines and skill percentage and match up, create maple story, blah, blah, blah. If you get a rebalance wrong, it doesn't matter what else patches there are. It's all people talk about. It's all people care about. People literally will quit the game, rage quit if a rebalance is wrong, right? But if rebalance is right, people invest in these classes that, weren't getting that much shine, that are actually getting stronger, and that have you put out, good DPS now. They're getting buffed. It's a win-win for everybody, right? Nexon wins, people are going to invest more in the classes, and you win because you could do more DPS when you actually invest in your class, right? And so no matter what, it's just hard for me to put these amazing updates, Sia, Arc, Absolab Chaos, Absolab Crystals above these two rebalances. So how I rank them is number 2 is this May update, right? Ignore enemy defense for V skills, ADI changes for all the classes, and then class specific rebalances on top of it. So the reason why I have this one second is, and I love it, is because it affects everyone, right? Everyone just gets a buff, or everyone gets the same change, right? And it closed the gap, right? Like I mentioned before, lower tier classes, even if they didn't get class specific buffs like Demon Avengers and Pathfinders, they still are pumping out PRs. Insane. It's not just PRs, it's they're actually doing more damage compared to other classes, right? They got a bigger buff than certain other classes, right? We have a Pathfinder leading the charge with our Lotus runs. There was a Demon Avenger that is number 1 in his Lotus run, right? And yes, they may have the best gear, but at least it's translating, right? At least it's translating. And so it's nice to see, people that hold out and that have played like classes like Kaisers, classes like Battle Mages, classes like Kinesis, Ice Lightning Mages, Buccaneers. They're all getting their shine, right? That's kind of what all people they want. They just want their time to shine. They don't want to be the top class every single time and like, be so overpowered, but they want to be recognized, right? Even if it's a small percentage of the community, they just want their no one wants to, they want to play their classes because they enjoy their class and they want their class to, one, it'd be fun, but also doing damage is nice too. Doing damage is fun, right? So it's just nice to see that there's just the balance, right? People are starting to just do guild dungeon, right? Guild dungeon, guild honor battle. They're testing it out. They are, doing more covert, actually pushing their limits in Mulong. It's nice to see, right? They're testing everything for all these classes, doing all types of content when previously they weren't doing anything, right? So that's just amazing. I think this rebalance has really, just kept going up, right? It kept building off of the previous rebalance, the crit res rebalance that you know, we've had previously. So I got to give this like number two. I pretty much any other rebalance that I can think of, I think this would be number one, but except for the crit res meta change, the crit res rebalance, right? That is just, in my opinion, that is just going to be kind of the maybe the time that it flipped, things changed. Like the first snowball, the first kind of that's gonna kind of lead the snowball effect. It just feels like now everything is going in the right direction, right? Into V3 with this with these rebounds just kind of building off into a better rebound balanced state of the game. And people are happy. People are happy. And it started with this crit res change, right? Crit res is gone. Crit attack, a scale that we didn't even know what it even meant or what it did. Crit attack is gone. People are taking evade for necro armors, Absolab, right? I got like 5,000, almost 6,000 evade now. And I love it, right? Don't have to worry about crit attack, which we were never explained what it was. Crit res now across the board is gone. You just need fair trade. You just need buffs. You just need a certain amount of crit rate. And yes, it's pushing people into the necro route, right? Inherent users are kind of getting screwed in a sense, but there's still crit res involved, right? Like we have a Shade that's an inherent user, chaos user, and we still have a Shade crit res. We have Bishop crit res, Pally crit res, and Lotus. So he's still able to crit 100% of the time without fair trade. But, maybe in contents like Covert, he's going to suffer, right? But at least in bossing with certain other classes, they still have that crit res. It just feels like now with fair trade, 100% uptime, crits all the time, right? It doesn't just make endgame bossing easier. It makes dailies easier, right? And it makes, Guild Honor battle easier. It makes like everything easier, right? It just like doing Mulong, which is fair trade, or Guild Dungeon, or even Covert, or hard Rudibus, Commander, like all of that, everything is easier, right? So that it just feels like the game completely changed for the better with this rebounds. On top of that, this was the first rebalance where they actually only buffed, rebalanced, X amount of classes, right? Everyone didn't get a class specific buff in that instance. Like I don't think dual blades, paladins, even Mercedes, Nightwalkers got touched in these last two rebalances all year, right? The top tier classes, whatever. So that's nice, right? And that kind of gives us the hope, the first indicator. I remember at the time we were thinking maybe they're not actually going to nerf classes, they're just going to not buff them, right? And that was like one of the other big issues before, right? You're afraid of getting nerfed. No one wants to get nerfed. You'd rather just lift up the bottom tier classes. So that was the first like sign that maybe they're actually listening to us, right? Maybe they actually aren't going to nerf classes. They're just going to not touch your class. And that's a win, right? I'm happy that Paladins haven't got touched, right? We were OP since Explorer Remaster. Right? We don't need a buff. We didn't need a nerf. Just bring up all these other classes, like make these people happy that are underperforming, and just leave Paladins the same, and then everyone wins, right? No one's talking about, and you see the feedback all the time. No one's really talking about nerfs anymore, right? They're just like, it is what it is, right? Like they can see the same thing that I'm seeing, right? Just buff the classes that need to be buffed, bring them up. Maybe, maybe an ADI change or ignoring a defense change brings these classes down naturally. But across the board, it feels like, maybe nerfs aren't necessary, or huge nerfs aren't necessary. Maybe just two V skills here and there, things like that. So I'm really like, it's just insane to think about how each one of these updates so far is S tier, in my opinion. Right? 2 for 2 on arguably the best pirate class now. Unique, one of a kind, Naples Sia. New gearing system, new cap, new stats, new meta change off of EXP going into HP, MP, BA. More things for people to, the economy changes, right? People make mesos with the Absolab crystals. With there's a benefit to actually doing these endgame content with Absolab and Chaos tiers being released in February, and then the two rebalances 2 for 2 on that. It just makes me like, again, like I think people, you don't see it enough in the gaming community where people just look at the negatives, right? People just look at the bad things that happen, but I got to give them props. These 5 updates, 5 updates, 5 for 5, half the year. V3 is already going to be a win in July. They're probably going to drop Adele. They're probably going to, in June, hopefully, or even, they added the new Legion system that I didn't even talk about. That was, getting me excited because I can do my Legion now, my Link skills. I'm actually having a lot of fun doing alt story, and I didn't even talk about it. But that was just another thing to this the past patch that was a win for everybody. Got people excited, right? Something that was long overdue as well. Free stats, free, EXP, physical damage, bigger blocks. So it's a large part of the community. I think, they've been waiting, and well deserved. Well deserved. I'm excited, right? It makes me excited. Even if June is not huge, right? I'm okay with that because July is gonna be big. July, the anniversary is gonna be big. It always is big. New class, V3, summertime, new people come back all the time. It's just an exciting time. I'm having a lot of fun just thinking about it, thinking back on all these patches. I just want to, remind people, right? It's you got to take these things, you got to appreciate these things that they're doing. Right? You can't just look at the bad things that they're not doing. You got to appreciate them for when they do good stuff too. All right. Like it's like me talking to my kids, right? Like we only think about like all the bad things they're doing, but we forget to like praise them and like um you remind them that they're doing good stuff. We only like sometimes we only just look at like tell them no, don't do that, don't do this, but like they need to be praised as well. I mean, maybe next on devs is I'm comparing them to kids, but it is what it is, right? Like I think it's just like exciting times. Um, just happy, excited. Just had a good Damien run today, doing a lot of fun content, playing more, enjoying the game, not burning out. I want to hear your thoughts on the rankings. Do you agree, disagree? Um, it's up for debate, right? I think it's either way, 5 for 5, in my opinion. But thanks for listening. Gonna post more Damien content, maybe a little bit of Lotus if I actually get a good run. I keep dying playing bad, but my Lotus runs are getting up there, getting better. Trying to progress my gear, my cap. I'm around 20.9 mil cap right now, slowly trying to build it. Free play style actually. Actually no packages, but just trying to sell Absolute crystals, use that mezzos, things like that. Legions. Legion is trying to improve, just trying to find ways to slowly progress and gear up, level up. But excited to share the progression of Damien, hopefully some new PRs in Lotus. And if you want to hear me talk about anything in podcast, specific classes, ask any questions, comment below, DM me on Discord. I'm glad to talk about it. Sorry I missed last week, but try to stay on schedule for sure. But thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment if you have anything. Let me know your rankings below if you agree or disagree. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.